Yeah, well, a win does something for people's emotions and well-being that nothing else can do. And the guys are in terrific place this week after a very good victory in Columbus. Some good performances, as we well know. Two or three lads that are not seeing the field this year, but have shown their worth in the past, have stepped up again. And it just adds a real good feel, a real spirit to the group. And training's been great. Weather likewise, been able to get some good work done, and everyone's got a smile on their face. So it's been a good week.
Thank you, Coach. We'll start with Drake Hills from the Tennessean. Go ahead, Drake.
Hey Gary, good to see you. Good to see some sun shining on you after a week full of rain and whatnot. But I wanted to ask you, obviously going into the last game, Teal was announced to be out for a couple of weeks. And how's he getting on? And in that same striker department, we've seen Ake Loba come in around the same time and get those same minutes to close up the game. Is there an opportunity there for Ake to take advantage of some minutes left behind and to add more depth behind CJ going into Kansas City and of course the games after?
Yeah, as far as Teal's concerned, he came out of that Salt Lake game having battled on with a knee issue. As you may well imagine, the fact that he could get through the amount of time that he did in Salt Lake would suggest that the issue was not something majorly detrimental, and he's a tough character. It might be slightly longer than we'd all hoped for and liked, but he's in a very decent place. He's healing well. He won't be available again this weekend, but it's one that we'll have to just keep monitoring. And I think we'll get to a point in the next week or so where it'll be something that he looks at or feels that he can move forward with and put up with. But I just want to make sure that in this early stage of the season, we're also not doing any serious damage that's going to keep someone out for a prolonged period of time. So I think there's a bit of caution in this as well. As far as Aki is concerned, yeah, you're right. Came on at the weekend. The usual applies. Everyone that comes into the game is asked to try and lift the group to the best of their ability, and to basically be a bit of a shot in the arm as a sub coming on the field. Now, they are minimal minutes for whoever that individual is to try and make a bit of an impression, but nevertheless, they are minutes, and we want to see that guys are not only fighting for the group, but they're very much up for the challenge, and in Saturday's case, up for seeing out a victory. Ake's a talented guy. Have we seen the best of him yet? Certainly not. But he is, I would believe, going to get a very decent opportunity given the way that circumstances are unfolding.
Thank you, Coach. Next we'll go to Ben Wright. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Gary, we saw Brian Anunga come in and play from the start and put in a really solid performance. And kind of similarly, we saw Jack Mayer start. Both of those guys have played bigger roles in the past, and this year haven't seen the field as much. What did you like from those two against Columbus, and how do you kind of plan to work them into the group going forward, given kind of the increased competition for spots?
Yeah, well, you've got it in a nutshell there. There is tremendous competition for spots, and Eric beat out Jack in the pre-season games, I felt, to start the season due to circumstances. Jack was given the opportunity again to really cement what he's already shown us. It's not, we're not giving somebody their debut. He's played a number of games and he's performed very, very well for the group. But there can be some anxiety when you haven't started a season. You're coming into a group that are already in their groove and a tough away game. I would go as far to say that, the growth that we saw in Jack, just purely in terms of his presence, He played like a man. We were lacking a man in Walker and a big man, and there were big shoes to fill, and he did it admirably. And I couldn't give him enough credit after the game. Likewise, Brian Anunga. We've seen Brian perform to a very, very high standard in the previous season, and with the competition that we have in that midfield, it's been tough for Brian. And what I would say, along with Taylor, who of course had his first start of the year, those guys prepare themselves daily. They work hard. Their mentality and their focus throughout the week, every week, is exceptionally professional. And when the chance comes along, all you can ever ask is that they're ready, they're focused, and they take that opportunity. And those three guys did. Now, the big difficulty for me, and it's a place that I think all coaches want to be, is where you have choice. Now, we've got a group of players, 2 international guys coming back, some wonderful performances, a victory, and they've put me in a tough position. I've got to choose a team that, are going to go out and hopefully pick up points again at the weekend. And I've now got plenty more players to choose from. So it's good in one sense and difficult in another.
Thank you, Coach. Next we'll go to Claudio Villalobos. Go ahead, Claudio.
Gary, thank you, Matt. Gary, I meant to ask you this before, but when you look at performances like Taylor's the other day, even Anunga, which obviously are not players that have been starting in games, and they do a very well job. You already know that. But what happens when it's the other way around? I mean, it seems like the team doesn't, or you haven't been able to get the same result whenever those guys up front are starting. What can you tell us about it?
Well, sorry, when those guys are starting regularly, or we're not getting the same results. Sorry, Claudio, I wasn't quite clear on the question.
Well, what I mean is that it seems like Taylor and Anunga, they look like they've been playing all the time.
Right. Yeah.
And then when you see Akim, for instance, in Thai, not that they're not trying. I'm not saying that. It's just that they haven't been able.
You just did.
Yeah.
You did say that.
Well. What I say, I mean, they're not trying. They're trying the best they can. I know. But what can you tell us about why is the reason they might not be able to actually accomplish what they really want in you?
Well, look, I certainly think that there are a couple of hurdles that players have to jump. The first one is you have to impress the coach, certainly the coach, to be getting your opportunity in the team. That may come off the bench, it may come in limited minutes, but you are constantly trying to gain confidence so that you get your first start somewhere. Everyone's got to start somewhere. You get your first start, you reinforce that confidence that the coach feels that, okay, well, he's had a terrific performance, maybe we'll try him again. And the final hurdle that you've got to jump is consistency. And I think therein lies the key. When players are able to perform consistently at this top level in the US, then there's a much better chance, obviously, that you're going to be not only a mainline player, but you're going to be playing most weeks. And I think that's everyone's challenge. And if you look at the top guys, let's take Walker and Hanny and guys like Dags and Annabelle. They've proven over seasons that they're going to play, 30, 40 games to a very high level, and you can rely on those guys week in, week out. Now, I'm not saying that can't happen with the players that we're talking about, but in Jack's case, I think he's 23 now, Jack. He's obviously got time to mature as a centre-back. Brian's a little bit older. I think he's 25 now. So Brian's really got to be looking at that and saying, okay, how do I get myself in this team, for 20, 25 games this year? That's a really big challenge in the midfield that we have, but certainly achievable. But obviously a key component in that as well will be results. When the team does well and you do well, there's a much, much better chance of you playing regularly. So, look, as I said in the last question, I'm delighted that these guys have come in and played well. It gives me another option. It puts pressure on the guys that were playing, and it creates a wonderful environment and competition every day.
Thank you, Coach. We'll wrap up today's session with Drake Hills and Ben Wright. Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, a bit of a two-parter for me, Gary. I wanted to maybe switch base to Sporting. They haven't, unfortunately, had a couple of guys that obviously are part of their 11 with Kinda and Polito being out pretty much for large periods. But they haven't had the start that we're used to all seeing with KC. What does that look like in preparing for a team like that obviously have had a bit of a rocky start, but are going to be hosting you at home and are going to be wanting to turn that around? How do you prepare for that? And then secondly, just to follow up off of your answer previously, you talk about consistency and obviously making and taking advantage of the time that you do get, coming off the bench. Going back to Ake, what exactly does he have to go to achieve when he does get that time? What is he needing technically and perhaps tactically to grow that time frame from, whether it be getting 45 minutes this time or potentially getting a start?
Okay, let me just take the Kansas one quickly. Honestly, the approach is no different to any other away game. You've pointed out that Kansas, I think you said there in the question, Kansas, I believe, are one of the most consistently good teams in MLS. Peter's been at the helm there for, I think, 14 years now. You don't last that long at any club unless you're doing a really good job, and that he has done. And this team, whilst a couple of their away performances have been tough and they've lost by the odd goal, are very, very capable. And they always find a way. And they are missing two very good attacking players in Polito and Kinda. But if you look at the guys coming in, if you look at the group that they have on the field and what they're capable of, it would be extremely naive of me or any of the players to expect anything other than an incredibly tough game. And I will tell you this, I don't know, and I've only been to their stadium on a couple of occasions, but I don't know that their fans would allow them to be anything other than competitive there, because that's what they are. They really do get behind their team, and I'm not sure they'd accept anything less than 100%. So it'll be an incredibly tough outing. Whoever's on the field, that is a given. As far as Aki's concerned, and I know we're always going to have a lot of questions about him because of what he represents as a designated player, but let's try and take that tag away from what he is. Let's just look at individuals and the way that they find their minutes and they progress and they develop, whether that's as a young player or otherwise. Aki's still a very young man. He's achieving an awful lot in Mexico. We know that. Has he found a stronger foundation here with the group, having been here over 8 months now? Absolutely. But the key to seeing more minutes is always going to be that constant build of confidence in what the player can do and what the players around him see and how he fits in. And slowly but surely, I think we're seeing all of those things in training and in some of the minutes that he sees on the field. The challenge I have is in some of these very difficult away games, when you look at the front line that we have, and this isn't an excuse, but we have 3 very good forwards. We're playing week to week. It's the early part of the season. It's not the end of the season where players have got 30 games under their belt and we're playing midweek, where rotation is more likely to be seen. We've been playing well. We've picked up good results. We know what that front 3 are capable of. The same as we're talking about Brian Anunga here. It's not easy to break into the team. So when the opportunity comes along, I think all that anyone's after is apply yourself, show what you can do. If you can be impactful in the game and give the guys a lift, that's all anyone can ask. And then when the opportunity comes along, be ready. That's all you need to be. Be ready.
Thank you, Coach. We'll wrap up today's session with Ben Wright. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Gary, I guess despite some of their struggles, Kansas City has still won both their home games. And I think historically, Children's Mercy Park is one of the harder places in the league to play. What do you think has made it such a difficult place for away teams to go and play?
Well, as I've just said, I think the way that the ground's set up, it has a very old school feel to it. The fans are very tight to the pitch. It's not a huge stadium, but they pack it out and they really get behind their team. They make a wonderful atmosphere there, and they really do get their team on the front foot. The other side of it, of course, has to be reciprocally the players on the field. The fans don't get behind the players if they don't see a group of players that really are giving it their best and their all. And I think, or I have to appreciate that over the course of the years that they've played there, the teams have been able to do that. When the players are not doing particularly well, the fans get them up, and when the fans feeling a little bit flat, the players get them up. And I think they've done a wonderful job of that over the years. But you're right, it's an incredibly tough place, and I keep looking at each game, each weekend, and really hoping that one of these games I look at and go, you know what, this might not be too bad in this long 8-game stretch, but I ain't found one yet, so we'll just keep digging away.
Now, tell me what makes you come up from the bench to have a performance like that, and how a player can actually contribute in a similar way for the coach to take you into account more often into the starting lineup?
Well, I think the most important thing is whenever anyone gets an opportunity is to make the most of it, and you saw other guys on the field do that as well. And I think the environment that we have here at training, the environment that Gary, Guppy, Kosuke, and Matt Pickens, as well as everyone on the team always embodies, is, at any given time anyone can play. Everyone has to be ready. In the way that we train and the way we're intense with our training, it allows guys who either haven't been getting minutes or need to step up. They can come in and make hopefully a flawless transition in. But we also have great leadership as well. Coming into that game, everyone was positive, everyone was uplifting. It's always a great environment, and I'm blessed that the guys around me did an amazing job and we were able to get the win.
Thank you, Taylor. Next we'll go to Ben Wright. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Taylor, was there any extra satisfaction in that win, just given how you've played Columbus a couple times and they've won, especially in the playoffs? And then are you vibing more with Caldera or Rebirth?
That's a great question. You always got the war zone. So, a win is a win, and I think after the 2 results that we had, I think we wanted to get back in that win column. If anything was sweeter, I think Alex Mule scoring the goal. I know it was on Twitter that my mom is one of his biggest fans. As he walks by right here, I'm one of his biggest fans. He's one of the hardest working guys in MLS. One of the best, and he's right here.
Is this Mrs. Washington? Where is she?
She's right there.
Oh no, that's her right now. Hey, how you doing?
But he honestly is. He's a fantastic human being, an amazing player, and he's done amazing with his time coming into the team. And to see him score, see Brian Anunga do extremely well, Jack Mayer be so great. I think his passing percentage was 97, which is incredible. And that's something we all know that Jack's capable of. So it was an emphatic win against a great team from the East, and a team that beat us in the playoffs 2 years ago. It meant a lot. But now we're on to the next game.